So now we're continuing on Daf Ayin Dalid Amid Beis, and we learned about Rava, who said that even without the Misa Difa concept, we still can prove from the pasuk itself in the parsha of Nefesh Shatiga Bo V'lo Yochal Min HaKodshim that we're talking about Maser Sheni, Ezi Dover Sheshava B'chol Nefesh, Bein Kohanim, Bein Yisraelim, Havi Omers and Maser, meaning Maser Sheni, it's mutter even Lizorim, Truma is not Shava B'chol Nefesh, and therefore it's impossible to say that as far as Achilas Truma is concerned, it would be enough to have Tvila, and as far as Maser Sheni is concerned, we would need and require Tzeis HaKochav Ma'ariv Shemesh, because the pasuk itself that's teaching me that it's enough to have tefillah without harav shemesh is addressing the case of Maser Sheni, because it says nefesh davar sheshav l'chol nefesh. So the Gemara now reformulates the original kasha that we had earlier. V'akate, still, how do we know that a mechusar kippurim is allowed to eat truma? Perhaps we could suggest that although Ad Asher Yitar, that pasuk is requiring Harev Shemesh to be matir truma, but not necessarily a mechusa kapara. Tahani Mili, when do we say that Harev Shemesh is enough? That's Heichad, the Lav Bar Kapara. He's not chayiv in a korban kapara, like for example, is Abal Shtei Re'iyos or a Mitzvah Muzka. If he's chayiv in a korban and he's a zav bal sholosh riyos or mitzvah muchlat, then he won't be able to eat truma ad maisi kapara. It's not enough that he has harev shemesh, but he requires the 8th day of bringing his kapara, and that's in the case of a bal sholosh riyos, etc. Omar Abaye answers trei kroik sivi bioledes. There are 2 psukim that say that teach us that Yoledes, who is one of the 4 categories of Mechusa Kapara. And after she's Mitayra herself from Tumas Leda, she needs to bring Karbanos as a clincher to Tara, Ksiv, and it says, pasuk number 1, Ushloshim Yom, Ushloshis Yomim, Teishe B'dmei Tara, V'chol Kodesh Lo Siga, V'el Amigdash Lo Savo, Ad Melos Yimei Torah, implying that Kavan Shemilu Yomer Tahora, she's completely Tahora, even though she hasn't brought yet her Karbanos, which means that a Yoledes is Tahora Miyad, Liachar Herav Shemcha. But then in the next part of the parsha, Uksiv, it says, V'imlo Timtza Yada Deiseh, meaning that's only after she brings the carbon yoledes of Shtei Torim or Shnei Bnei Yonah, the Kohen is mechaper with the Zrikas Adam, and now she's Tahora. So what's going on over here? Is it just simply Ad Melos Yimei Tahora, or do we require V'chipar Lea Kohen? Meaning that she has to bring her karbonos. Okay, so how can we reconcile this apparent contradiction? Kan l'truma, kan l'kadoshim. The pasuk that teaches us that the Yoledes is Tahora even before she brings her karbonos is coming to be matir hub to achilas truma immediately after Erev Shemesh on the 7th day. But the pasuk that teaches us the Yoledes is Tmei until she brings her karbonos, that's to prohibit her from eating kodshim. And from this, we derive the conclusion that even if a Tameh is a bar kapara, and he has to bring his kapara, he's mechusa kapara, nevertheless, he's allowed to eat truma even before he brings his kapara, before he brings his kabarnos, once he has a hariv shemesh. The Gemara again raises the kasha of v'yepachano. How do I know that pasuk that requires bringing the karbanos is talking about kodshim, and the pasuk that allows his matir b'erev shemesh is talking about truma? Maybe it's just the opposite. That pasuk, which is matir b'erev shemesh, is talking about Kodshim. And the pasuk that says that you need a karbanos is talking about Truma. And the Gemara answers, Mistabra Kodesh Chomer Mitruma. Shekain, because we find the chumras of Kodshim that don't apply to Truma, Panka Ask, which are Rashi Tevis for Pigul, Nosar, which only apply in Kodshim, and Karban, which has to be brought Lifnim, and it has Me'ila in a case of Shogeg, Ochla Betumas Aguf, Chayvel of Kares, and then we have the Isser Onen. All these are the chumras that apply to Kodshim that have no parallel in Truma. So Gemara asks, Adarab, but Truma has its own set of chumras, Truma Chamura Shekain Machpaz, which means a Chiv Misa B'dei Shamayim for someone who eats the Truma when he's Tameh, Chomesh for a Zar who eats Truma B'Shogeg. There's no pidyon, and it's also Lizarin. My answer is Hanach Nefishin. There are more chumras in Kodshim that don't apply to Truma than there are chumras in Truma that don't apply in Kodshim. Therefore, it's more logical to assume that the pasuk that comes to be machmir and prohibit until after the kapara is brought is coming to be machmir as far as achilus Kodshim is concerned. Whereas the pasuk that comes to be matir with Harav Shemesh and without any sort of delay in bringing korbanos, that's coming to be matir Truma. Rava offers an alternative answer to the question of the Epoch Hana. Rava Amar below Hanach Nefishin, even if I don't apply the rule of Hanach Nefishin, there are more chumras in Kodshim than there are in Truma, Lo Matzis Amrit, I still cannot interpret the pasuk that requires karbanos as if it's referring to Truma, and the pasuk that's Matir B'Erev Shemesh is talking about Kodshim. I can disprove that possibility from the pasuk itself. Amar Kra, the pasuk from which we derive the conclusion that a Yoledes is not tahor until she brings a karbanos. V'chiper aleh kohen v'tahera. Michlal shehi tmeya. The pasuk is calling her a tmeya until she brings her karbanos. If you're going to tell me that the pasuk had malos yimei tahara, which is matir eating immediately after with Harav Shemesh, is talking about Kodshim. How is it possible that the pasuk is matir B'Erev Shemesh to eat Kodshim? Ikri Khan, we should apply the pasuk here with regard to the Isra Achilas Kodshim B'Tuma, Tumas HaBasar. V'Abasar Asher Yiga B'Chol Tomei Lo Ye'ochem. The pasuk calls a Mechusa Kapara a Tomei. And it says, "V'chiper aleh kohen v'tahera." Notice until she brings a karbanos, she's considered tmeya. So therefore, when the pasuk says "V'abasa shayiga b'chol tamei," it must be including even a mechusa kapara who touched basar kachim, and he's mitame the basar. So how can you possibly tell me that the pasuk in Yoledes, which is matir achilas mechusa kapara bekadshim, how can you tell me that it's matir achila bekadshim to someone who hasn't brought his kapara? When if he touches the kadshim, he's mitami the kadshim, as we learned from Yoledes. Elishmami no, we have no choice but to assume that when the pasuk is matir mechusa kapara before the kapara, it's talking about Achilas Truma. Maskifler of Shisha, Breder of Idu, Mimatzis Armet Truma Ksiva Hacha. Is it possible to say that the pasuk with regard to Yoledes had Malos Yimei Tara, from which we derive that Mechusa Kapar is allowed to eat Truma? Is that really referring to Achilas Truma? Vasanya, we have a Braisa, Daber B'nei Yisrael Lemar. Isha Ki Tazria V'Yelda Zachar. And the Bryce interprets this when it says B'nai Yisrael, Ein Ela B'nai Yisrael. it means Bnos Yisrael that it's Meos B'tumas Leda Kiores V'Shivcha Michucheres Minayin. How do we know that they also contract Tumas Leda Tamiloma Isha Kitazria, which is Marva all Nashim even Kiores V'Shivcha Michucheres? The Isak and this pasuk is talking about Truma. Kiores V'Shivcha B'nos Mechal Truma Ninu. That's not possible. You can only be mated Truma to a Kohen or a Bas Kohen or a Bas Kohen who's still the base of Thea. But Giores and Shivcha, they don't have that yichus, and therefore even B'Tarosov, they cannot eat Truma. They are Zoros. And they can never marry a Kohen. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rava, Vilo, which is like V'chilo, Matzinu Shedivrei Akasu, V'parshas Yoledes Nemru Af L'gabe Achilas Truma. But Ksiv, the parsha says in Yoledes, B'chol Kodesh Lo Siga. And when it says B'chol Kodesh Lo Rabosat Truma, that Yoledes is Asura in Truma until Malos Yimei Tara. But we see explicitly in the pasuk that Yoledes is referring, the parsha pasuk Yoledes is referring even to Truma. Ella, but rather Vadai Kra Mili Kachashim. There are two different dinim, different separate dinim that were addressed in this parsha L'gabi Yoledes. B'tchila, at the beginning, the din of Tuma of Yoledes, and the Torah says Isha to be marba Gioris V'Shivcha L'Tumas Leda, and then afterwards the pasuk is teaching me a different din. That is that all Yoldos, or let's say it this way, any Yoledes which is Re'uya Lecho B'Truva, whether it's Mikoach Avio, Mikoach Bailo, Lo Socha B'Truma Ad Sheyariv Shimsha. So tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, will continue here on Daf Ayin Hey.